Hello, good morning, and welcome to OSW Daily, Open Source Workplace Daily, almost daily live stream. Here with Steve Todd, that's me, founder of Open Source Workplace, and the ever looking cool Mike Petresky, the host of the Workplace Innovator podcast. How you doing, Mike? You're looking great, man.
I'm just jealous. I'm just jealous because you're going away on vacation and I have to stay here and keep working.
Oh man, it
How are
sounds
you,
like the
Steve? Good morning.
I'm great. I'm great. It sounds like you need a vacation with your hoarseness this morning. You must have done a lot of talking yesterday on your live stream.
I
But
did. I did.
good.
My voice is always a little shaky the day after a Wednesday because there's too much talking going on
There you
for
go,
this
man.
guy. So,
There you go.
so
There you go.
apologies, everyone. The last thing you want to hear is me clearing my throat on a Thursday morning. But yeah, no, I'm happy for you, man. You need a break, and we've had some great conversations. I think that's certainly something I'll do every day while you're gone is go back and listen and watch
You're such a
previous
liar.
episodes
Such
of
a liar.
OSW
Such a
Daily.
liar.
Just one after another.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you. But anyway, that's good. I hope you do, mate. I hope you do. I hope you do. But anyway, folks, if you're joining us here, thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking the time to drop in. So what do we like to do here? We like to talk about all current content, sometimes not so current content, but content that we think is relevant to today. All related to work, workplace, and employee experience. And we've got a few things we want to talk about. So yeah, so this is your first time coming across the channel, please do hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're alerted each time that we do post something. In addition, there is a link below that if you subscribe, we will send you a daily newsletter where you will get a lot of the content up front, but we put in a whole bunch more. So daily productivity tips, statistics, things that you can use and keep, one, to be more productive, but also bring into your own workplace environment and studies that you do. And we do book reviews and many other good things in there. So sign up there today. It's using that link and you'll be receiving those things. And Mike, this is my last day, but I was thinking, what do I do with this newsletter? Because I'm going to be away. And I thought, something, I can schedule all this. So yesterday I went through and I got all these Bitmojis of me on vacation. And I've got them all
Nice.
teed up, so things are going to come out. Obviously, I won't be putting in a lot of the content we're going to talk about, but I'll continue with a sort of
Right.
a skeleton newsletter, so people will receive stuff while I'm away, and there'll be some fun
That's
with
awesome.
little emojis, so basically people can sort of open those up. Just to see that, but at least they can.
I hope I
they
don't see
can
the
do it.
one where there's the Bitmoji of you on the beach in just a bathing suit lying on a blanket. Did you use that
knows?
one?
Who knows, mate?
Oh,
Who
no.
knows?
Oh, no.
Who knows? And maybe I'll just.
I expect you to come back with a deep dark tan like me when I come back from
Oh,
a
of
week at the
course,
beach.
of course, of course. Yes.
You and I look
My
very,
Irish blood
our
will be
Irish,
pulling that
our
out.
Irish blood and Irish skin. I want to see at least a bright red hue about you.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah. So what are we going to talk about today? Because we're here to talk about some content. And Mike, I came so close to just talking about the first article. Let me throw the agenda first, and just so people can see.
Yeah.
But I really wanted this Biz Now article you sent through on the Harvard study. It was so deep, and there were so many questions that went through my head that I'm fine if we
Yeah.
just talk about this today. But obviously we've got other things that we want to talk about. Curious, right? We've talked in the past about curious mindset, especially at these times of uncertainty. So we're going to dig into a little bit of that, and then also Google on how they're training their managers and their people to manage health, mental health in specifically. And what I like about that is, Google is one of those companies that everyone looks up to and looks for leadership and guidance. And the fact that they've
Sure.
given this interview and been so open in what they do and how they do it, I think it's a valuable, great piece of content. So, and again, folks, all the links to all the articles we're talking about is down below, so please do check them out. But let's dig right into this Biz Now article. Fantastic. And
Lots
Mike,
of good stuff.
crazy stuff. So I want to ask your opinion on this first line that I have up here, where it talks about to sort of preface it, they said this is where in the studies, innovative companies are conceptualizing office space as an add-on to virtual work as opposed to the default of where people work. What was in your mind when you read that? I was surprised.
Yeah, no, that does surprise me. But
I love you.
if you,
You weren't expecting it because your cup was
no,
in
I'm
your
still
mouth.
drinking coffee. I'm trying to wake up here, Steve.
Oh, that's too funny.
Now, the whole article, there's so much data here. There's so much information. Again, every survey has its pros and cons. There's things we've discussed. We don't take all these results at face value, and we always ask the question, who's asking the questions? What are the questions? But there's some interesting things going on here. And yes,
Yeah.
this kind of, rethinking of the workplace idea, and it's not that it's all the survey results are not that surprising, although some are. The idea of, we know we're going to be heading into this new reality. We're already in a new reality. The longer term implications of this work from home experiment, and now knowing that we can be successful, many of us working from home, and therefore we need to rethink how we approach workplace. What's the value of it? Why do we come back? What do we do to enhance that experience? What do we do to encourage people to return, feel safe about returning? And then also that hybrid approach we've talked about so many times, the challenges of managing the two different groups of people, the ones that are at home, ones that are in the office. And yeah, so this is kind of flipping some of those ideas on its head, emphasizing the virtual world and then having the physical workplace be the supplement to our main place of working. But there's so much to go into here, and I know I don't want to steal your thunder. I want to go through it methodologically. See, here I am, Mr.
Awesome.
Struggling to say words.
Awesome.
Methodically. Methodically. Let's do it methodically, Steve.
Let's do it like that. So and there's a word coming up later that I know I'm going to mess up, but I'm just going to blame it on the fact that I'm British and you Americans will say it something differently. I mean, I'm going to stick with that. So
I don't have that excuse.
Yeah, so I actually find it really interesting, and I sort of as I deliberated over that one sentence, I was trying to think to myself, well, why would that be? Why would the innovative companies be putting the virtual work first? And then almost seeing the office as an extension of the virtual work, or the virtual office. And I just had to think that the innovative companies are sort of software driven, because SaaS is what's driving a lot of innovation today. Technology is.
Yep.
And this was a role that I don't think many people believed could be done outside of the team being together all the time, because of how they work the scrums. Everyone's sitting together, they have their boards all around, everyone sees their work processes, everyone's able to sort of listen to what code's been developed, how it's going to interact with different things, and just the systems are where they all have their own individual cans of work, so to speak. And then you've obviously got someone who then ties all those cans together, and I'm using probably the wrong vernacular, but it's a way I can sort of understand it for myself. And
yeah,
I don't believe we ever envisioned that they could work away from each other because they need to be that interaction, right? But I think people are really surprised, even the software engineers themselves, of how productive they can be. In essence, they can lock themselves in their own room at home, create an environment that works for them. They all are involved in that 15-minute scrum at the beginning and at the end of the day. But then that piece in the middle is where they can really dig in and actually probably get through a lot more work. And obviously there are metrics that show the organizations on how productive they are, right? So you could measure lines of code and go, okay, so this is the amount of lines of code that this person was typically producing in the office environment, and then comparing it to today's world. And actually they're probably going, this is actually working out quite well. Now, is this sustainable? I don't know, but I think it's, if we look at the words that were used, it's the office is an extension. It's not saying it's going to be eliminated. It's sort of, we're going to add that on to that virtual. So basically, maybe we can take it to a new level of productivity, a new level of collaboration. And that's sort of what was going through my head as I sort of pondered what that could potentially mean. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
So much.
Yeah.
I don't think that deeply, Steve. No, that's all great stuff. I think that the thing that jumps out to me in that is so many of us have different experiences, roles, responsibilities, daily tasks in our work life. So the software engineers you described, have that world, and that is surprising that they're so effective in this work from home experiment. And that's the thing I guess jumped out at me too, is that is it sustainable? That's the piece that you're asking that question, and that's where I have a question, and I wonder, because no matter what happens with the virus, however long it takes for that to go away, I think we are forever changed by our thinking around this and the need for flexibility. So what happens when we're not all in this together anymore? And the article addressed this. The idea, the reason this has been such a successful experiment, if you want to call it that, in so many ways, at least here in the near term, is because we were all forced to do remote working, and we were all forced to be in it together. And they referred to prior experiments with remote work where it was always a challenge because that the digital worker who was dialing into a meeting that everybody else was in person was a second-class citizen. And that went away with this COVID lockdown. So as we get back to some new normal, some new hybrid approach, and half the team is in the physical workspace, half continues to work from home, or let's just say that that's the situation, how do you prevent that, from happening again? How do you prevent the tiering, the second class or difference in approach or view or feeling, those human feelings of being connected with your team? And that's where the longer term discussion comes in, and what do we do and how do we manage, both those groups to be successful. But I think you're right. The experiment is proving many things. Some other interesting things, were you surprised by some of the results about which type of personality, performs best in a remote environment? That surprised me.
No, it really did. It really did. And we've talked about, the type of leadership that's going to be required in this environment and as we move forward. But actually, it's almost the same skill sets. We've talked about the empathetic leader, but actually it's almost the empathetic and agreeable employee. The studies are showing that actually they're the employees that actually do benefit and are more productive in this environment as well, which I guess kind of makes sense. But it's not something that I connected before, so that was interesting to me. Did you have any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, just that idea that introverts, you would think, would be happier away from people and in their own world, and they get to kind of control their own environment. But there's some evidence that shows that they need those people around them to feel comfortable and feel connected, even if it's not a natural, engagement where they're the loudest voice in the room, for example.
Yeah.
But you're right. Empathy, I think that's the key. And mindset is the key for all of our success, whether you're a manager, whether you're an employee, whether you're at home or in another setting. Thinking of others before ourselves. And certainly during this pandemic, where there's so much going on that requires our personal self-sacrifice, our putting others before ourselves, wearing a mask, whatever it might be, social distancing, giving up some of the things that we all are missing right now. And we do it for the greater good. And we also understand that even if we don't see some concern or feel a vulnerability, others do. So, when we're at home and we're left to our own devices to take the initiative and set up a meeting or make that phone call to a colleague or a teammate, it's something that we have to, have that thought like, oh, I'm fine right now. I'm busy doing my work, but there might be someone else who can really benefit from me reaching out to them right now. And that's, I think, where those types of personalities are really doing well in this environment. Well, bring up just remind me of the list. What else was on there? Because there's so many things in this article.
And I was going to ask you a question, and I'll bring it up in a second. But the other thing that sort of struck me was stress, negative emotions, and task-related conflict was down 10% in this environment. That really surprised me. And it's one of those, we've talked about the stress of, what everyone went through initially, but I almost think, maybe this is a gross assumption because I haven't actually read the actual study. This is a surmising of the study, but to think that has dropped, the emotional, the stress, the conflict has dropped 10%. I'm still struggling to really understand that, because the emotional stress that actually this environment puts on us, be it your home situation, be it everything we heard initially, right? That there are people who are loving it, there are people that just hate it and just can't cope with it, and there still are those people. Don't get me wrong, and that won't change. But the fact that through the entire study that it's dropped 10% on average, which means
Yeah, I
that
don't.
there are a lot of people that actually it's reduced dramatically beyond that. I find that fascinating.
Yeah, and again, I didn't dig too deep into it either, but that did surprise me, and I wonder how they measure stress and how
Yeah.
they,
Yep.
maybe it's just asking people how they feel, and if someone's taking a overall holistic view of their current situation, maybe the stress just reduced from having to commute into the office each day is
Yeah.
something that
Yeah,
they
that's
feel
true.
they wanted to report back. But I got to believe that, like you said, with those other factors of children at home, spouses, partners, people, roommates, there's got to be an increased stress, and also the digital component of this. We've
Mm-hmm.
talked about here time and again the
Mm-hmm.
digital stress of Zoom fatigue and things like that. That's where I've really felt it over these last many months, and
Yeah.
I'm sure others have as well.
Yeah.
So the other thing we didn't talk about, but the people are working longer.
Yeah.
That's clear, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
think that's
having more meetings, but shorter meetings.
shorter meetings and to the point, and where there's benefits of that, it also then goes on to say, well, there's a counteraction to that with people having those less informal conversations, that there's less collaboration. With our
Right.
people who we interact with more, so like our direct team and people that we like,
Yeah.
that actually interactions increase by 40%. But those people that we actually don't usually come into contact with, where the real innovation happened, is actually dropped dramatically. So that's where, and it goes on to say,
Absolutely.
we know where that innovation of new technologies and so on and so forth, that may be the long-term detriment to an innovative process. So fascinating stuff.
Yeah, have
As I
you
said,
noticed that? That would just I just got to comment really quickly on that, because
no, please do.
that's my biggest notice. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a little different because I was always pre-pandemic a remote worker who, did a lot of my own thing while I was in my home office. Then I would travel either to corporate headquarters once a quarter, or I would go to a conference and meet up with my colleagues from my office. But those were groups of people from not just my marketing team, but the sales team and some developers. I go into the office and see the other folks, the HR folks, the developers, all the different support people in our corporate headquarters. I really don't have a reason to interact one-on-one with them anymore. And you think, what's the big deal? It's like you don't really have a direct need to, but that's a big kind of thing that makes you all come together as a team, the corporate culture, and then you never know what those casual conversations might spark. A conversation I had with a sales rep might just bring up an idea that I could
Right.
use for my podcast or what have you, or
Yeah.
a future conference speaking engagement.
Mm.
So it's really or what the customers are saying, and maybe an introduction to a customer for an interview. And that has gone away almost completely, unless I deliberately, and there's been some rare occasions where I'll slack at one of my friends from the sales team that we don't see each other like we used to. I just
Right.
kind of work in my little world and with my marketing team. Have you experienced that too?
Yeah, no, I have actually, and it's funny you said that. So I actually started reaching out to folks within the organization and just asking them for 10, 15 minutes to jump on a Zoom call, just to see, how you doing, what are you thinking, what are you working on, just little things like
That's
that.
great.
So basically a couple, I think probably 2 or 3 a week. And whether it all depends on the sort of bandwidth on both for both parties, but in essence, it's the ability
Sure.
just to touch base, where folks that you may have seen just around the office, or just to touch in. So yeah, I do, and it's something I've
That's
been very
great.
conscious about, but yeah, but so much there, Mike. As I said, we could continue to talk about this
Oh yeah.
for a while, but you know me, I'm always curious. So how do we stay curious in times of uncertainty? And this was the I guess curiosity quotient. I have no idea how we say that, Mike. Do you?
Quotient.
Quotient. Okay.
It's
Okay.
it's great. I don't know English language. Where's the sh in there? There is none. But sometimes a t is an sh. So
There you go.
quotient.
There you go. There you go. But anyway, it's all about having a hungry mind, and I love that. I always talk about myself being thirsty. I have an unquenchable thirst for learning and for knowledge. So it's great. But what this is all talking about is fun ways to grow your curious mind. and it
Yeah.
talks three
Hey,
things, and it's so cool. And you can probably relate to this, you know, where this is how I do it, Mike. You know, I think about stage one. I take the stage, right? Take the stage is what they're saying. Think of someone who you
right.
admire. You know, I look at you, Mike, and I see how you do
Look at me.
things. I see
There
everything
you
you
go.
do, and I
I
go,
knew this was
how do I become Mike, DJ Mike? You know, and I'm sure you do it too.
please.
There's many people who we see interviewing, or who we see doing talk shows, or we see doing, you know, these type of events, and we
Yeah.
go, how do they do it? What is it they do? And that's all part of a learning process. I mean, for me, Tom Bilyeu is like one of the best interviewers, especially in this forum on through video, because that's how he's doing it at the moment, and he's tremendous.
Yeah.
So good at it. So how do we learn it? And so basically, this is all talking through a process. If you please do go read the article, it takes you through a, you know, 3 or 4 step process, and how you do this, how you get into the mindset. And then the acceptance speech, where, you know, the acceptance speech is basically where you see yourself 6 months from now, you know, where Mike, it's you and I, where we, you know, we're getting, you know, YouTube video, you know, channel of the year, whatever that is, and what does that look like, and who are we thanking, and
Right.
how did
Right.
we do it, and, you know, whatever it is. And then obviously the last piece is teaching, you know, and it's like, if you want to really learn something and you want to master something, go teach it. So therefore, whenever you know you got to teach something, I mean, you look at all this stuff that we got to do every morning. You know, we get up, we put this together, and we have to come up with stuff to talk about. Sometimes it's better
Yeah.
than others, and sometimes it's more in our streams than others. But I just think this is a really good tool that we can all use, we can all benefit from, and there's something in there for everybody.
Absolutely. Really, really good. Look at the article, folks. We can't really do it justice here, but Steve did a great job summarizing it. And the one about picking someone you admire and
Yeah.
imagining yourself being them, right, for a period of time, and then seeing what you learned and what questions came to mind, the curious mind. The other thing that jumped out at me in this article, and I think it was dated back in March at the beginning
Correct.
of the pandemic, it said, you know, imagine yourself 6 months from now when this is all over. And I just think that was funny. That jumped out at me as a kind of a ironic maybe comment, not funny, but sad in a way, that here we are almost 6 months later, and we are nowhere near the end of this. But yeah, great stuff, and stay curious, folks. Stay you know, active, proactive, looking for ways to learn something new. And I'm talking to myself first. So these next couple of weeks, Steve, when you're away, and I have my mornings free again, it's going to be an interesting thing to, you know, look back and say, when you come back and you'll ask me, Mike, what did you do with those mornings at 8 a.m.? You know, did I sleep in a little extra than I used to, or did I do something new, creative, curious, and stretch myself, learn something new?
Awesome, Mike.
And I hope I can do that.
And I want to run a competition on that very point. So, what's the over under, Mike, on you,
Oh, no.
you getting up, or you getting up at the same time each weekday as you're currently doing, or you go longer? So let's do it. We'll give a prize out to this. So anybody who wants to sort of guess, just shoot over how many days you think Mike will get up at the same time as he currently does to do this show. And you know, you're showing a lot of indications here, Mike, that I'm not very
The over
confident
under.
it's going to be many. So
The
yeah,
odds
folks,
makers are setting
OSW
the odds.
Daily. So send your emails to oswdaily@gmail.com, and we'll give a prize out to somebody who gets it right, or who knows, maybe you're the only one, and you're the one that actually gets the prize. But
Hey.
one thing I do want to say, Mike, on that Take the Stage, if you haven't read it, there is a book called Alter Ego, and it is all about this, creating an alter ego. And what a lot of elite athletes do, or really successful people do, is they create this alter ego. So, you know, Steve Todd, who is the introvert, to do this, what do I have to do and to get myself, and that's a really bad example, but if you take Beyonce was not Beyonce. You know, Beyonce was
Steve Todd, Beyonce, I think of you often in the same sentence. That's absolutely true. This is a very realistic comparison. Keep going.
I love him. I love you calling me out on that, because I so would have done the same to you. I appreciate it. But in essence, you know, Beyonce was originally a choir singer. So in a church, singing in a choir, to then go on stage performing the way she does, she created this alter ego in her head of who she needed to be Beyonce.
Right.
Eventually, she became Beyonce because, in essence, you vision who that is, what it is you need to do, the traits you need to have, and then you become that person. So it's a fascinating book of all that mindset, and actually it goes through the
Interesting.
process of how you actually do it. So I'd encourage you to read it. Perhaps that's what you could do, and by the time we come back, you could be, who knows, by the time we come
I'll
back,
be, yeah, you never, I'll be back. I'd be
you'll be
like,
Tom Bilyeu.
Steve, how you doing, man? So, I'm the new Mike. I'm the new DJ Mike.
DJ
I'll
Mike.
be smoking a cigar. Yeah.
Uh,
And I'll have changed my personality completely.
I won't do an over under on that one because I think it's a certainty that DJ Mike will always be DJ Mike.
That is true. No, it's funny though. Funny you mentioned this because I think, and maybe how long ago was that book written? Because I wonder if in today's world of YouTube, everybody on video, everybody putting themselves out there in a way. What do we always talk about here? We talk about the importance of authenticity and vulnerability,
Yeah.
and the value in being our true selves. I had a guest on my live stream yesterday, Vic Bangia, and he was a guest on my podcast like 3.5 years ago, way back before Workplace Innovator, back to the prior show, FM Innovator, one of the early episodes there. And I said, before I have Vic on, I'm going to go back and re-listen to my early podcast. And I know you've done this before, where you see yourself from years ago or even months ago sometimes.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey everybody, welcome to the show. This is DJ Mike P, and I'm here to tell you about facility management. And it was like this voice that I was putting on. I didn't even know I was putting it on, but I was almost like playing a character because I felt it necessary to do that. And so it's almost like the reverse in a sense, but it's almost harder. It's easier to do that guy than it is to be the real Mike P, and to be just putting myself here on YouTube and talk to you each morning. You can't help but just be like, this is me, and I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm going to stumble and bumble over my words, and I'm completely comfortable with it. I shouldn't say I'm completely comfortable with it, but you're more comfortable now than you were, a week ago, a month ago, a year ago,
For
right?
sure. Absolutely. And I just looked up the book. It's called The Alter Ego Effect. It was published February 5th, 2019. So not that long ago.
Yeah. And I could see that the value in that. And so the Beyonce example is a great one. I always wondered how some of these incredible performers, usually musical performers, get on stage, and then you see them interviewed, and they're these sweet, kind, very quiet people. Yeah. Like she was a church, grew up in the church, a church singer, and then she's on stage like doing all this stuff. It's like, how do you reconcile that? And it's almost like she's playing a character, and she's putting herself into this character 100%. And I know I'm a big admirer of U2, as you know, big Bono fan. I've been
buddies.
Yeah, your Irish buddies, who you hang out with in hotels in Belfast. And I don't remember the period of the 90s where Bono would basically do this. He would create a character, and during the concert tour, he was The Fly, or he was McFisto, and he was these characters. And he always talks about the suit of lights he wears, and this guy on stage is not the Bono who is the thoughtful, lyricist and poet and deep thinker and spiritual guy. So it was interesting to hear those stories, but I will check out that book.
Yeah,
Thanks
it is great. It is great, and I think it's just great psychologically to sort of help us develop and curate. And there's so many more questions, but I just want to touch on one because I know we're running low on time. So I just want to pull this up. We don't really have to talk too much about this, but this is just, again, look, Google are an organization that everyone looks up to, right? For how they hire staff, how the services they provide the staff, and it's just they are a beacon in that way. And this is a really deep dive interview into what they're offering to employees, to managers, to help manage mental health, and how they're making it a priority. So please do go check it out and read it.
Yeah.
And I did
Good
have
stuff here.
it really is good. The one, I was reading this and I was like, this is so good. And many organizations provide this type of, a lot of the things that Google are providing, many companies do it. But I almost feel that we undervalue what our organizations offer us, because it doesn't feel like we have to pay a price for it. I don't know what it is. So be it, you know, training that they provide, be it, I know, access to whatever, you know, call it health programs, be it mental awareness programs, be it, you know, like there's a lot of companies now offering, you know, the Calm app, Brain FM, Headspace, all these different apps, they're now offering all these things, but yet we seem to undervalue it because we're getting it or giving it, or the company's giving it. Do you feel that? Do you see that? Do you sense that?
Interesting. I do sometimes. I often ignore the emails that come from our HR team because they're offering all these. Here's a link to one of our benefits that's available to you already. There's no extra cost. It's just something. And we're like, oh, that's from the company.
Right.
Yeah, for some reason I do that. That might be our default setting. And I think that's a mistake. I think especially in these times, in the article, just to make a quick comment on it, just talks about some practical ways to check in with people and check in on their mental health, check in on their well-being. Get outside that's the other danger of this digital virtual existence is we get right down to business. We're trying to keep our meetings short, but we need to recreate some of those check-in moments where we ask people how they're doing and, you know, really get a window into what's going on and make sure we're making that connection as people before we get into the checklist of what we need to get done.
Yeah. No, I read through everything that Google is doing. I'm thinking this is fantastic. And then I stepped back and I went, you know, NASDAQ provides this as well. They do all these different things. And it's like, I'm reading this article saying this is fantastic what they're doing. And that's how I got to that mindset. It's like, I'm asking myself, do I undervalue what the organization is providing because it's there? They're just giving it to us, you know? And, you know, these benefits teams work very hard in actually creating these programs. And to your point, right, those emails come out from HR, and I'm sure everybody who's listening can sort of appreciate, I do that too. But yet, you know,
that's for somebody else. That's for somebody who's got issues or concerns or whatever. We're all in this together, guys. Everybody. We need to help each other.
Right. So look, thank you. Appreciate it. If you got all the way through, as always, we're giving a prize away. If you email us and just say, yep, I listened all the way through, Steve. So there'll be a prize for that. So email us with that. And also over under on how many days Mike will wake up at the same time. We want to do that.
Out of 10, out of 9, or what would it be out of 8?
Out of 8. We'll do it out of 8. Yeah, let's do it
out of 8.
So,
over under out of 8. Yeah, we'll see.
Look, Mike, thank you everyone for listening.
Cheers.
It's been great. I will see you in 2.5 weeks almost, I guess.
Yeah. Enjoy your time away, man. You deserve it.
I can't wait. Thank you, man. I appreciate
well done.
It. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right. Take care, everybody. Thanks.